operations. A little bit about me. My name is Olivier Lepinoy. I work for Autodesk in a team dedicated to business development. My past work experience are with Vinci. I worked for Vinci during 6 years. I also worked at Accenture during 3 years, serving customers in the AEC industry. I did the same for IBM globally, covering the construction industry globally. And I've been with Autodesk for 4 years now. My education is, I'm an engineer and an architect, partially educated in the US and of course educated in France. So this is me, and I'm gonna carry on with the presentation now, start the presentation now. I always speak about an invisible revolution because in my opinion, when you look at a construction site today and when you look at a construction site 10 years ago, things are not very different. There was a promise of a lot of robots on site, exoskeletons, drones, and so on and so forth. Actually, none of this really happens so much. A construction site now and a construction site 10 years ago look similar. What is very different are the mechanisms behind the work done. This is about the business models. This is about digital platforms used by the companies working on the projects. And all of these things are invisible. This is why I always start with this notion of an invisible revolution. And I'm going to try today to make this invisible revolution less invisible. It starts with acknowledging the fact that the largest players in AEC are moving faster than it seems. Everyone complains about the fact that productivity is very low, that adoption of technology in this industry is not as good as in other industries. This is probably not wrong, but we can also look at the glass half full and see that most of the largest companies, if not all of them, are also doing very innovative things. And I'm going to focus today on this, one of the things that they do, which is building their own digital platforms. You have technology companies offering technology, and we speak about platforms. Autodesk is one provider. But I'm speaking now about the fact that these big companies want to build their own platform to sell new services or to sell services differently or to collaborate better. And usually it changes their business model because the business model of a platform, of a digital platform, cannot be the same as the business model that they usually use. And I'm going to show examples of these things. This is just a list of logos that you see here to show big names. And some of them are also building several platforms at the same time. Before I give the examples and I go into more details, the underlying philosophy is this one. There's playing defense and there's playing offense. This is business strategy. Playing defense means productivity improvement, cost savings, and business optimization. Most of the time, business conversations in AEC are about playing defense. Most of the time, no one speaks about playing offense. But there's a lot of things going on in playing offense, and I think we should look at this more. This is new growth thanks to digital. This is market differentiation and radical reinvention of some companies. I'm going to try to show you examples so that you're convinced that this is happening really. The framework that I'm offering that I built is this one. It's called hyperconstruction. It's a vision of the shape of things to come in the AECO industry. It is looking at companies from the point of view of data. And you have 5 categories: the originators, the providers, the aggregators, the consumers, and the controllers. I'm going to explain later in the presentation how this goes, but you can read the slide and understand that the originators are the firms gathering the land and financial resources. They sort of create the data by defining the built assets. The providers are another family of companies providing the design, the raw material, the building products, the workforce, the equipment, and also sometimes the data. The aggregators are like the general contractors of today. They orchestrate the whole thing, and they manage the flow of data. Not last, but consumers are like the facility managers of today. They use the data created by the others to run the built assets. And the last category is a special one. It's the controllers who finish who control the finished work. They make sure the quality of the data and the processes are enforced. All of this has been explained in a chapter in a book that I'm going to mention in the reference of this presentation. So this is not the state of the industry today, but there's a trend going on, and this is the sort of the sequence of events. There we see the emergence of new ecosystems, new players, new roles, and new responsibilities. I'm not going to speak about all of these aspects today. I don't have the time, but I'm going to try to show how we're going to move from the state of the industry as it is now and this future state. It starts like this. This is the ecosystem, or the industry as it is now. 6 families of companies: the owners and planners, the controllers, the designers, the builders, the suppliers, and the operators. This is not true all the time, but this is true almost all the time. And even globally, you can go to Japan or to Africa or to APAC or to China or to France or to Spain, the US, Latin America. You're going to find an ecosystem similar to this one. And we know the difficulties of this ecosystem. It's a very siloed and fragmented landscape. And we know all of the difficulties associated with this fragmentation. I think that with digital platforms and new business models that are emerging, we're going to see less and less silos. So the first category is due to the merge to the analogies of family number 1 and number 3. This is the originators. Later, you also have the designers, builders, and suppliers. They have a lot of things in common, and that's why I call them the providers. So you have the originators and the providers. At the same time, every company that is big enough, that has a strong digital strategy, is also a candidate to become an aggregator. Every company wants to become an aggregator and manage the data from the other companies to sell new services and to increase its margin. So every company wants to be an aggregator. So you have the originators, the providers, the aggregators, and of course the consumers go last. They are like the facility managers of today. One detail are the controllers. Now most of them control the work at an early stage, and I believe that in the future they will control the work at a later stage, but this is more of a detail. So you have this landscape, and we see the emergence of these companies. This is exactly the same companies as we know, but this is just another way to look at them from a different angle. And I'm going to try to show later, give examples of this state of the industry, where you have the old categories and the new categories at the same time. But of course, it's a network, and I think that in the future we're going to see really a change in the way we speak about the players. So this would be the final state, and this is at least the framework that I use to work with customers. What I've observed is that it changes their perception of themselves. This is really interesting because they believe that they are a prisoner of their role because of who they are as a company. And with this framework, it opens new possibilities for them. Now comes the time to show some examples, and I want to say that these examples are publicly available. I've started this collection a long time ago, and I've decided to make it publicly available. It is put in 2 pages on LinkedIn. One is called Hyperconstruction. The other one is called The Arc of Transformation. And hyperconstruction focuses on new ventures and growth initiatives of large and famous AECO players. Arc of transformation focuses on things that are less visible, things that are about the cultural and organizational initiatives of those players. You will understand easily when I show the full list. What else should I say about this? Arc of transformation is also the name of a program that I'm running inside Autodesk to have more strategic conversations with customers. And hyperconstruction is an expression that I use in one of the articles that I wrote for Autodesk. It was last year. So that's also a source of inspiration. So far, with hyperconstruction, we've reached case number 22, I think. All of these cases are explained, not in details, but enough for people to understand. And there's a link to go to the company website or to the web page to understand more if you want. I also try to leave this to the interpretation of the reader. I'm not going to explain exactly what I think about all of this. This is too complex. I think everyone has a different way to look at this. But there's Skanska, there's Ferrovial, there's Samsung, there's Larsen & Toubro in India. It's about Arcadis, Lendlease, IBM, Holcim, Vinci, Google, Hilti, Schneider Electric, IKEA, Royal Asconing, Matt McDonald, Ferrovial again, Jones Lang LaSalle, the MIT, SpaceX, Tata, and Amazon. And I try to publish one new case every week. For the other series, the Arc of Transformation, it's very similar. I think we've reached case number 21. It's about sometimes the same company, sometimes other companies. And we tried in this case to focus on something specific that they do, something that is outside of the ordinary. If you take the analogy with the music industry, you can say that hyperconstruction is side A of the record, where the Arc of Transformation is more side B of the record, things that are less visible but are also very important. And sometimes the new ventures are a success, sometimes they are not a success. But the point is not to say it is good or bad. The point is to show that big companies try big things and we should pay more attention. I'm going to give you the conclusion now, even if this is not the end of the presentation. But what came out of this study, this small piece of research, is the fact that the nature of innovation completely changed. There's business model innovation instead of only technology innovation. Business model innovation can have a much bigger impact than just technology innovation, even in this industry. The second big thing is the fact that the nature of disruption is changing. Companies use digital platforms to disrupt their competitors or to disrupt the market. This is not something that they did 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but this is now becoming an habit. The third aspect is the fact that, believe it or not, the AEC industry already entered the platform economy. So I think we should stop speaking about the AEC industry as being so late and so bad. We've already entered the platform economy, and we have a lot of companies building their own platforms, and it's going to go bigger and bigger in the future. And the last aspect in terms of conclusions for this study is the fact that culture is at the center of this transformation. It's very much a technology problem, but it's also very much a cultural problem or a mindset problem. And we're going to also see companies change their way of thinking. And of course, as a consequence, it changes their way of acting with digital transformation. So a couple of examples. I'm not going to go through the 22 examples for hyperconstruction or the 21 examples for the Arc of Transformation. I'm just going to give some examples. And remember that there's one new case every week. So I'm going to start again in September this year, 2022, a new year, a new series. So new business models, for examples. Skanska started BookLook. This is this prefabrication company as a part of Skanska. It's a joint venture with IKEA. And Skanska started BookLook a long time ago, when no one was paying attention, when no one was speaking about industrialized construction so much. And for Skanska, this is really a change in their business model. It doesn't mean it's going to change Skanska completely, but the business model of BookLook is completely different from the business model of Skanska. The parent or the twin example is, of course, the opposite, IKEA and BookLook. It's interesting to see that IKEA invested money in BookLook in this joint venture with Skanska. So you can also wonder why IKEA does this, because this is not the normal business of IKEA. IKEA is in the business of furniture and not in the business of prefab housing. But this is another example of business model innovation and new business models. Another example is also from Europe. This is Ferrovial doing ZT, launching a new business in car sharing. ZT is an electric car sharing company. It is a joint venture with the French car company Renault. And it is interesting to see that this is very far from construction or concessions, which are the core business models of Ferrovial. ZT, this is really car sharing, and this is really a diversification in the business model of Ferrovial. Of course, Ferrovial is a big company, so this is not impossible for them to diversify their business models. And the last example that I want to use for this category is Arcadis and Arcadis Gen. Arcadis is not only the traditional engineering firm that we know. Arcadis Gen is a separate company with a separate CEO and separate staff. And Arcadis Gen does software and platform. So you could say that this is a new business model for Arcadis. They develop their own software and platform, but they can also sell services. So this is really different from the traditional business of engineering. Another way to look at this this analysis of cases is to look at just the digital platforms, and again, 4 examples. 4 examples coming from Switzerland with Allseam, Spain again with Ferrovial again, Jones Lang LaSalle, the US, and Takenaka. This is this big Japanese builder. I'm not going to be able to go in the details of all of those 4 platforms, and there's more that I didn't put here. For example, in France, you have Bouygues and Vinci doing things that are very similar, building their own platforms. But for Allseam and Oris, this Oris is now a separate company, but it used to be a part of Allseam, and this is the new business for Allseam. It is a platform to optimize the design and the sourcing for the road industry, the material sources for the road industry. So this is similar to the traditional business of Allseam, but of course completely different. It is also about the optimization of the design for more sustainable roads. Ferrovial has developed several platforms. One of them is called Quico. It is about facility management. An acquisition for Jones Lang LaSalle is an acquisition. They acquired Hank, which was this company, and now this is an opportunity for them to build their own digital platform for building system optimization. And Takenaka, we have less details about this because it's probably at an earlier stage. But we know, and there are traces on the internet of Takenaka willing to build its own platform. Of course, it's about better collaboration inside Takenaka, better collaboration between Takenaka and its ecosystem, its suppliers, its customers, its clients. But it's also about selling new services. This is probably not the easiest part, but when you have a digital platform, you can sell new services to your ecosystem and make money differently. And I used the Japanese example to show that this is not only happening in the US or in Europe. The last way to analyze the series is to look at new capabilities. And again, things that are very different. Ortif, with the fact that they have this company called Nexplore. This is where they try to develop their own technology for Grupo ACS and for Ortif. They buy technology to technology companies, but they also want to build their own technology. And they are very serious about this. AllSeam and AllSeam Maker, that's very different. That's more of an open innovation initiative to try to change, to bring more innovation inside AllSeam. And it works really well. So it's about the company trying to build new capabilities and trying to transform itself, also from a cultural standpoint. Vinci and Leonard. Leonard is this, again, this sort of open innovation forum. It's completely owned by Vinci, but it is a way for Vinci to open itself to its ecosystem, whether it's the French ecosystem, the European ecosystem, or even globally, companies that are outside of Europe. And it's a way for Vinci to capture new ideas and capture new businesses and to incubate startups. Ferrovial does the same in a different way. There's something interesting which is called Digital Hub. Inside the Digital Hub, they do a lot of things, but they also design new business models. They design new services, exactly like a service design firm. They think about the service before they think about technology. To give you more content without spending one more hour speaking with you, I'm showing now this collection of articles that I wrote or things that I did chapters that I wrote in books. The 4 articles that I wrote are on the left. They are available on the website of Autodesk. The 2 chapters that I wrote in books are for the Construction 4.0 book and for the Innovation in Construction book. And I speak about the same content. I also recommend to read the AECO report from March 2020. It is about foresighting and the future of the construction industry in Europe. Autodesk is a member of AECO, and AECO is the association of the largest construction companies in Europe. And of course, I recommend that you follow the Hyper Construction page on LinkedIn and the Arc of Transformation page on LinkedIn to get more content. An article that is special is this one on the Autodesk website. It is called the Arc of Transformation, and it explains in more details the things that I've explained now. It shows some frameworks, some diagrams. It inspires, it might, if we're lucky, it might inspire your digital transformation journey. The framework that I explained at the beginning, that I showed at the beginning, comes from this book, the Innovation in Construction book. I was the co-author of one chapter with 2 other people, and this is explained in a lot of details in this chapter. This is now the end of this presentation. My only hope is that I managed to change your perception. And I thank you for listening, and I look forward to your questions.